Hello, everyone, and welcome to my channel. I'm Reina Creole, and this is yet another installment of the Audience with the Queen podcast. I kind of record these offline conversations with folks to kind of pick their brains about what I'm thinking about or stuff that I happen to see out there on that funky place of scum and villainy known as the internet. But definitely someone who is not scum and villainy would be Chris Gore of Film Threat. How are you, my dear?
I'm doing great, Lorena. Your hair is on point today. I don't know if it's okay
Thank
to
you.
say that.
That's
Loving it.
more than okay to say that. Yes, thank you. Thank
Okay,
you.
good. And thanks. Just happy to be here. I watch your channel, love your stuff. You are
You.
brutally honest, and you do not live in fear of just having your own opinion about things. And I appreciate that.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I've learned that from my southern relatives. As a matter of fact, if you are expected to give your opinion, no matter how crazy it is or whatever, there's like room for all of that. So I kind of bring that to my channel. So I'm so glad that you enjoy it,
Yep.
and so glad you're here. I freaking love Film Threat. Oh my god,
Oh, thank you.
love
Thank you.
love the work that you guys are doing there. So the reason why I have Chris on, it's kind of downstream from something that I saw and made part of one of my Spice Lounge shows, and that would be that garbage Rolling Stone article that was written in response to this clip that was on Star Wars Theory's other channel.
Do we need more women in Star Wars? No, we don't. No one. Women don't even watch Star Wars. They don't even care about it. It's a man's little thing. Let them have it.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw that clip. I think I saw the whole interview, but she goes on. She's right. I'm sorry to say, I think, and I know people who work in entertainment, and they'll say Star Wars is a boy brand, always was a boy brand. Barbie is a girl brand. Now, does that mean that women cannot also love Star Wars? Of course not. There are women who love Star Wars. Plenty. And I think that part of the reason there are female Star Wars fans is because it has a lot of male energy, like Marvel used to, or the original Star Wars. But it's interesting because I talked to a friend who's a TV writer. She writes for children's television. And the philosophy is in children's TV is this, that so a girl will watch a show made for boys, right? So if there's a show that is totally made for boys, like it's definitely targeting the male demographic, whatever, girls will watch it. Boys will not watch programming made for girls. That is like a known fact that is in the circles of creating children's entertainment. So I know why you showed me this clip. It's because I did that tweet a couple times now. It's become my mantra.
Yes. Let me bring that up while we
Why
are
not?
we are
Let's
talking
bring it
about
up.
it. Yeah.
Yes. Yes, turning Star Wars into a girl brand will prove to be one of the costliest decisions in entertainment history. And it's it's no secret that Lucasfilm seems to have some agenda to broaden I don't think they ever needed to broaden it. Star Wars is obviously for everyone, but targeted towards boys. I think part of it is that there's a lot of what I would call gear porn in Star Wars. What is that? Spaceships and robots, and you got to tinker with stuff. And Han Solo's working on the Millennium Falcon using space ratchets. I used to work on cars and motorcycles back in the day when it was really easy to do your own oil change. I did that when I was a kid and had cars. And there is that sort of like almost car mentality. I mean, George Lucas having made American Graffiti, that's all about just a love of cars and whatnot. And that is mostly a male dominated thing. And look, it's no secret there, plenty of female Star Wars fans. I would say it runs more 70-30, or used to be 70% men, probably 30% women. But there was definitely a shift. And I saw it at comic conventions. You've been going to comic conventions for some time.
Yes, I have.
but it was only recently, and I'll tell you exactly when the shift happened. Marvel movies. When Marvel movies became pop, Marvel movies mainstreamed geek culture. And what happened was I'd been going to San Diego Comic-Con since 1989 when it was this little comic book show at like a college. I remember it was just a weird location. Finally, it was at the convention center in the early 90s, and then it just grew and took over. But it wasn't until like 2007, that's when Twilight was at San Diego Comic-Con, I began to notice like, and it used to be like, oh my God, there's a woman at Comic-Con. This is in the 90s. And it was usually the girlfriend or wife of one of the artists or somebody there. We would all be shocked, like, because it was like more than 10 to 1, male to female. It's 50-50, fully 50-50. Now, I believe that's a good thing. I believe that that's a positive thing, that fandom, I think, is more 50-50, which is, what the world is. But I think certain brands can remain true to their core audience. And I think straying away from the market for young boys, which is what George Lucas, there's a clip of George Lucas saying, I made this for young boys. He was looking to create a modern fable and heroes. And that's okay. It's okay to have different. I mean, Barbie, I get like, okay, Barbie, not made for me, the Barbie movie. That movie knew its audience. And Greta Gerwig, credit to Greta Gerwig and Margot Robbie, they knew the audience. And it was really, that movie's not even for girls. That movie is for young women who played Barbies when they were a kid and now have had to deal with, when they were young girls, now had to deal with the realities of being a woman in the world now. And there are many things in that film that speak to women. I would never take that away from them at all. It doesn't mean that a man can't go see Barbie and enjoy the movie. I'm just not one of them. But I understand it. I understand why that was so successful. And the most profitable movie of 2023 was Barbie. If I fact check me. But this is why Star Wars is a failing brand, because it's failed to lean into. And I just think that when I even see, like, look, I have friends that are women who are huge fans of Star Wars, but they gravitate even towards different things. Like, you're familiar with the brand Her Universe.
Yes, very much so.
Her Universe is great. It is, female targeted clothing brand, fashion brand, Star Wars and genre. And you know what? That's great. They know because I do have friends who are women who love Star Wars, and you ask to see their collection, they don't have a collection, but they'll have a cute top. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you'll have one of the tops, you'll have one of the dresses, or if you're like me and walked into, the store, I think it was the Star Wars Outpost store that's in that's in Disney Springs, used to be downtown Disney. I keep calling it that. And while I love collectibles, I have a ton of Star Wars collectibles. Man, I saw some rhinestone barrettes that said Star Wars, and that's the first thing that went into my cart. I should have put them on for this. I've had it on several things, but that stuck out. I'm like, it's a difference between, that figure, 2000, I'll think about that. Lightsaber, yeah, okay, I'll put that on the list. Rhinestone hairpins, oh heck yeah, that without thinking, that goes, that goes with me. But you're absolutely right when it comes to Star Wars and it predominantly being a male brand catering towards men and young boys. That was absolutely it. I never felt ostracized from that. And like you said, back in the day in conventions, and I've been to a lot of, let's just say I've been going to conventions so long. It's like with meeting some of the actors, it's just because they know me. It's like, yeah, what you been doing? It's like catching up with the old folks home going. But there was a point in time where you would go to these conventions. You're right. There were not many women at all. And it wasn't like it was some horrible thing. If anything, if you were a woman and you walked into a Star Wars convention, you had people saving seats for you. I can go get you a snack. Really? Which movie do you like? Which one? Really? 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 They'll kick their friend out of the seat next to them so you could, sit there and instead. But I didn't feel like you shouldn't be here,
Right.
because you were a woman.
Right. I think if you look at my statement in just sort of from a factual standpoint, I'm looking at it from a standpoint of someone who has done, I've done work in marketing, right? When I've done jobs in the corporate world, I've worked in marketing. I've read books about marketing. One of my favorite books is called Marketing Warfare. There's an updated version of it. It's all about rivalries between different brands like Coke and Pepsi, Burger King, McDonald's, etc. You learn a lot when you, and I recreationally read these books, which helps, it actually helps with a lot of the work that I do and building up Film Threat as a brand, right? So, but I'm taking this from a purely marketing standpoint, and that there are differences that people don't like this statement. There are differences between the sexes. Men and women gravitate towards different things. That's just a fact. You can legislate all you want having gender neutral toy aisles in the state of California for which is utterly ridiculous and stupid. You can try to legislate that all you want. There are differences in the sexes, and there always will be, because it's wired into our lizard brains. We gravitate towards different things. We can also there's no reason why a boy can't like Barbie. There is no reason. There's nothing wrong with that. Usually the Barbies came into play. I played with G.I. Joes when I was a kid, the big ones. And if we needed to save someone, it was a Barbie, but whatever. That's all I'm saying. But I'm coming at this kind of from a cold marketing standpoint. If you're looking at why the brand of Star Wars is failing, and it is, why is it failing? And it's because of that, because they've leaned too far into the age of the girl boss, which I think has failed. I think that a lot of people just haven't, it doesn't resonate. When you look at things that resonate, what resonates? Because it's in the zeitgeist. There's something that everyone is feeling that is deep in the recesses of our brain that we can't necessarily express out loud. Usually that's expressed in horror films. Horror seems tapped into, when you see a horror film become really successful or just sort of blow up, it's because it addresses something that's deep in the recesses of our brains, and we respond to it. That's the original Star Wars was like that. It was a reaction to the world being so dark in the 70s. We were in the hangover of the Vietnam War, lost trust in all institutions with Nixon and his resignation. Crime was rampant. Inflation was terrible. I remember Jimmy Carter, worst president, at least up until that point. But I'll just say,
Yeah.
I'll just
I
say
have to laugh. I remember seeing photos of the gas lines at the
I was in the gas lines.
gas station.
I was too young, but I remember with my mom in the gas lines. I mean, gas was crazy. I remember those kinds of weird, the 70s was a dark time. Here comes this movie that's this breath of fresh air that completely makes no direct reference to present day. Evil, good, let's go, right? Very easy the morality in Star Wars was very clearly defined. When that movie came out, it was tapping into the zeitgeist of what kids needed. And in particular, young boys needed heroes, and they needed a fable. And look, women love that too, and there's nothing wrong with it. I never said that women can't like Star Wars. There's nothing in that statement. All it is saying is turning it into a girl brand has basically made it less valuable as a brand.
Exactly. And I think the reason why so many people got, I'll say, butthurt, panties in a wad, all up in their feelings, is because it says in so many words what you've been doing, what Star Wars has been doing, turning it into a girl brand, has failed miserably, and they refuse to acknowledge that. So if you guys don't think that, watch this clip, which I put on Twitter during watching Ahsoka, this is prime evidence. Lucasfilm, you keep effing up with this. They're going to do the Mary Poppins thing. They're going to do it. They're going to do it.
It's ridiculous, but whatever. It's, you know.
It's ridiculous. It's
Yeah.
ridiculous. And for female fans like me who have loved Star Wars for a long time, even younger female fans who are getting into Star Wars, who love like the original trilogy, the prequel trilogy if you want to. It is what it is. That's the kind of Star Wars that we gravitate to. Like you were saying, Chris, boys needed heroes, men needed heroes. Women like seeing heroes too, which is why spy thrillers do so well, which is why movies like John Wick does so well, which is the reason why films like Godzilla -1 do so well, because I'm going to be sexist because I am. Women like being protected. Women like being saved. You may say, oh, well, I don't like it. Okay, yeah, that's fine. But when you get back to marketing, that taps into something worldwide. I'll bring up like Indian movies that we like to watch, Chris. Okay, you always have that hero. Women is just like, I love being saved. Well, that's what it is, and it makes tons of money. It's a tried and true and proven formula.
I just think that pushing the girl boss thing on, it's almost like they're trying to create some sort of social change. And it's not as if there has been a weakness in men, but I think that's about an absence of fathers. It really is about that. And then just the sort of lack of skills that are being passed on, everything from like how to change a tire to just simple, like, I don't know, like I used to work on cars and motorcycles. Now you need a computer to diagnose your car. So you have to take it into the dealer, if you have a new car, which is weird, but there used to be a set of skills that a father would pass on to a boy, a son. And it's just, those things are kind of being lost. So men have been weakened, but that doesn't mean, I mean, I feel like almost like, look, having the ideal is a good thing. I'm not going to be Han Solo. Okay. Not as good looking as Harrison Ford. I'm not sure, I have the guts that he has, but I love something to aspire to. We all like something to aspire to. And especially for young boys, that has been completely lost and supplanted by the thing that does a disservice. I think the issue I have with the girl boss is not that the women are strong. Okay. We have had strong female characters in the past. I mean, you can go through Ripley is the one that people bring up. Linda Hamilton in the Terminator series, strong women, but they're women. They're strong as a woman would be. And in addition, the other thing is they're not strong at the, they're not made to be strong. In order to be strong, the girl boss has to make other men weak, other male characters weak. That's
my issue. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Chris. But that's the thing that pisses me off. And I'll bring Barbie up because yes, I was a main demographic for Barbie. Loved Barbie. Ken, he was kind of like the servant. I basically would get G.I. Joe and pretty much G.I. Joe was dating my Barbie. I won't tell you how many boy cousins. I'm like, yeah, I'm stealing your G.I. Joes. I need it. But they're like, no, we're not going over there to get it. We're not going in the dream house to go get to go rescue our G.I. Joe. Barbie was always a feminist icon with regards to first wave feminism, which is I can do anything. I can be president. I can be an astronaut. I can be a teacher. I can be a pediatrician. I can be a stay-at-home mom and raise my kids. The whole thing was giving women the space to dream and to be what it is that they wanted to be. That was first wave feminism, and that was the brand that Barbie was putting out there. That is the marketing that the Barbie film was doing. So what ticked me off into like starting with the fourth act was okay, so we're going to make men the reason why you can't succeed. We're going to
Yeah.
make men the reason why the world isn't perfect. And even if the world isn't perfect, why aren't you coming to a way that we can both understand each other and work together? It's just like, no. The only way that women are going to succeed is basically stepping on the necks of men. And that's that fourth wave feminism that pisses me off the most. And I keep seeing this. And to understand exactly what Chris was saying, it's like, they're not saying that, men don't like female characters. We don't like strong female characters. It's not to say, we'll put it this way. Women like strong characters, but a good percentage of us do not want strong female characters at the expense of demonizing and emasculating men. And that is the reason why, as much as Lucasfilm pushes this girl boss thing, you're getting a lot of pushback from women who are like, I don't watch this. Why the heck do I want to watch this? This isn't something that I want to watch. So you're trying to tell me that people such as my brother, my husband, my son, my nephew, my grandson, somehow they're responsible for me not being able to achieve what I want? And I should just be given everything, and I'm the best at everything, and I never learn anything. I don't have the same hero's journey where I get knocked down, I get back up. I get people around me to help me. I've got people who will thwart me, but in the end, I've grown and learned some kind of lesson. The girl boss never learns a
Yeah,
lesson.
okay. That is actually even a more important point. What you just brought up is that this girl boss trend, it does a disservice to young women by creating characters that can never be wrong. They're never wrong. It's everyone around them is stupid. And then the other thing is they never go through a journey where they fail. One of the reasons I think that the first Indiana Jones film, called Raiders of the Lost Ark, was never called Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark. That's an idiot marketing decision that Disney made when they purchased Lucasfilm. But he fails the entire movie. He doesn't even win in the end. He doesn't get the arc. Go back and watch Raiders of the Lost Ark. He fails, and then he fails. He has some couple wins where he gets a little bit ahead. He never wins. And it's really, Indiana Jones as a character is a lesson about determination. It's all about determination and, trying your best while facing impossible odds. That's Harrison Ford's career. When you look at the character of Han Solo, when you look at the character of Indiana Jones, it's I am going to do my absolute best, and I may lose. And that is when I observe all the female girl boss characters, they seem to go through this. They have minor setbacks, but they don't lose ever. And God, I was watching this movie, International Space Station, ISS. And in it, as soon as they introduced the lead character, I thought, oh, she is going to live. She's going to live. And look, there's a reason that certain old tropes have gone away and are bad. The white savior trope, right? Like that just gets boring after a while. It's like, you're the chosen one. It's like, okay, I get it. All right. Okay. And we can flip that, but we've just replaced bad old tropes with new bad tropes. And I think it's awful, which is why I'm very excited for Dune. If they do Dune Part 2 correctly and they do it really well, it is not a white savior story. It's a deconstruction of that always was. It's like, this is how I try to explain Dune to people who are not necessarily fans of Dune. It's like Anakin Skywalker could foresee that he would become Darth Vader, and he tries to undo that fate. So he sees in the future, like, oh my God, I'm going to become this horrible space Hitler. How do I stop that from happening? That's what Paul Atreides' journey is. He sees himself becoming this leader that will be responsible for the deaths of billions of people across the galaxy. And how does he prevent that from happening? Because he sees the future version of himself becoming this horrible, evil person. And that's what it is. I think when people hear that, they get it. But a lot of people were accusing the movie, of course, people who'd never read the book, which I read the book. I read the book 4
I did
times.
too.
Read it when I was 14 the first time. It blew my mind because it wasn't Star Wars. That's why I liked it. It was a smarter version, and I really loved it. But anyways, so yeah, I just think that the pushing the divide between men and women, between the sexes, is it's evil. And you see, there's a lot of videos I've noticed lately of women kind of waking up. They're like in their late 30s, early 40s, saying, "I went to I'm not happy." Yeah, because family is how you family and what comes from family, which is children. And you know what? There are sacrifices when you become a parent. But I'll just say this: best thing I ever did. Best thing that, well, initially accidentally happened to me, and then I've loved every minute of it. My daughter and I have like a weekly standing uh date where we get together. It's she's part of my movie meetup group, so we all get together. My daughter's there. It's like there's 20 of us. We all go see a movie and have dinner at happy hour. It's really fun. And God, I'm just like, oh my God, she's a young woman, and she's I you know, she has some of me rubbed off on her movie opinion. She's very opinionated about movies. We don't always agree, but I love it. I love it. But yeah, just the joy that comes from that is cannot be underestimated. And I remember being a young dad and like, well, I'm not getting any sleep. I didn't care. It didn't like even cross my mind. I'm like, well, it kind of sucks, but it's temporary. So I don't know. We're living through a weird time where I think people are getting a lot of bad advice. A lot of bad advice. And it's heartbreaking to me to see so much bad advice become popular. So yeah, and we've seen the destruction of our myths and our fables, our fairy tales. Alan Ing, who's my colleague, who I know he's been on your show.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Of Alan. He has a young daughter, she's teenager and she's a huge Disney fan, and she is upset that she just flat out said to her dad, "I really miss romance. Why can't just the prince save the princess? Can there just be a romance in a movie?" There is. All of these movies are devoid of romance. And when I see it, it's so rare. I'm like, oh my God, there's a heterosexual couple that just like each other in a movie. This is rare. And it's I really feel like there's way too much that movies are now seen as a platform to push agenda. It's so obvious now, and it has ruined entertainment. A generation of writers that put message and agenda over storytelling and basically lack the life experience to even tell a compelling story that would appeal to anyone outside of their insular
Their
group.
particular sphere.
Yeah.
I mean, and I bring this up on so many, my channel and when I appear in other channels, that there used to be a period of time where artists took risks being artists. They put their
Yeah.
art out there into the atmosphere and didn't preach to you. It was the story,
Yes.
whatever story they wanted to tell, and they trusted their audience enough
Yep.
to make up their own mind. Like I hear people who would say, well, there's, George Lucas, of course he had political agendas that were in his movie. I said, no, he used allegories, but wasn't
Right.
telling you what to do, wasn't telling you what to think. And with a lot of modern entertainment, and especially what's coming out of modern Lucasfilm, and don't even get me started on the MCU, it wasn't giving us this story where it's like, dang, I don't know who to root for. I don't know.
Right.
Should I be rooting for why do I like the bad guy so much? Or why don't I like this guy so much? Or, are we going to see Tony Stark, start drinking again? I mean, you don't get that now. We have to show that women can do everything and fail on nothing, and that men can do nothing right. And like you're saying, these people who not only lack life experience, who are writers, but don't have the common sense or are not allowed to be able to access those who do have that life experience, because it's okay to be naive, but to be smart enough where, okay, there's somebody who's smarter than I am, who has this experience. Let me go pick their brain, whether, I have to take them out to dinner or give them a six pack and just, let them talk. But to kind of get that knowledge. And that's another thing, generational knowledge. And that's something that was shown so well in Star Wars, that generational knowledge, and why getting that generational knowledge was important. You don't have that anymore. What the history is, no, it's the history of now. And they ignore everything before that
Yeah,
and wonder why people are just like, no, this story does not draw me in. It's superficial.
yeah, it's disheartening to see, because I think there are bad messages uh being pushed, really bad messages that I mean, some of it I remember as a kid. I all through high school I had newspaper routes and delivered newspapers in the snow. I grew up in Royal Oak, Michigan, just outside of Detroit. Very cold. The winters are rough. I
I
lived
know
through
my
it.
sister lives there now.
Oh, look, I love I still have family in Michigan. My sister's in Michigan. I love it. It's great. I love being from Michigan. But look, Star Wars inspired me. All I could think about when I was delivering newspapers was Luke Skywalker running through Hoth. You know what I mean? Like, I'm delivering newspapers as a kid, and I am walking through snow that is insane. I had my moon boots. I don't know, you might not remember. You probably don't remember moon boots. They were great. Now
Yeah,
they
I
call
remember
them
those.
Uggs. They call them Uggs now. And by the way, I have a pair of Uggs uh, for weather just like this. Anyways, like I just thought about it. Just I feel so fortunate that I grew up with heroes that were based in a morality that also taught lessons without telling you what to think, that you could draw your own conclusions. And
Mhm.
then, that kept me going through tough times. High school sucks. Going through puberty sucks. Going through growing that period of time as a teenager, that early, and I saw my kids go through it, and I'm like, wow, they hate me. Okay. Because kids are different when they're single digit age. They're pretty much malleable, and you can present ideas to them and talk to them. When they become teenagers, something in their lizard brain, and this is all, it's about detaching from the parent.
Yeah.
Because
Mhm.
my job, I see these parents that are like, I'm my kid's friend. I'm like, I was never my kid's friend. Not when they, not when they were young. I was not their friend. I was their dad. And I would go into what I call dad mode, where my voice would change and they would be in fear. And that's good. So it's good. It's a good motivator to be better, to learn the value of household chores, to learn the value of finishing projects and homework on time, to creating good habits to become a good adult. Because I have only one job, and that is to raise my kids so they can survive without me, because one day they will be without me. That's the reality, the harsh
Oh yeah.
reality. And we are living in an age of children and uh, children in adult bodies where they don't have the coping skills. That's why rates of depression are so high. That's why we kids, when I say kids, I mean young people in their 20s, are being
Mhm.
fed a lot of things that leave them hopeless. They think they can never apply themselves and work hard to own a home or to reach certain goals. And I will say it is harder than ever to own a home, but you get married at a certain age, you work really hard and you save. There are ways to do that. There are ways. I'm not saying it's easy. I'm saying it's possible. And additionally, just a lot of bad lessons about just relating to people. When I look at movies, I look at what Marvel's become. And by the way, Lorena, only for you, just for you, I'm going to put this tweet out about every couple months. I'm going to quote tweet something different. I'll reword it. I might even, Madam Web's about to come out. Maybe I'll
Oh
do,
Lord, yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm
I'll,
going to see
let's
that.
just see where the box office ends up. I may just completely reword it and say something there. Oh my God, I can't. I get myself in so much trouble because people just accuse me of being sexist, which is so small-minded because it doesn't argue when you resort to name calling, you're not discussing the idea, which is why I don't name call. I will say this: I will mock people and I will make jokes because if you follow me on Twitter, and I know you do, I will. Sometimes I'm serious, occasionally serious, but I'm a jackass and I like to say outrageous things that make people think, but I don't tell them what to think. And this is a topic
I
worth
love
discussing.
this one.
Yeah, oh
I
no.
freaking love this
Yeah,
so
this
much.
guy was trying to say, like, I saw Chris at the bar alone, and I'm like, yeah, I was probably ordering some drinks. And then, because I'm usually, if I'm at a convention, I'm with a table of people, like 20 people, and we're all hanging out. Because I know a lot of people from going to conventions for a long
Yeah.
time, been friends with Adrian Curry and just people in the Star Wars space and stuff. And it's gotten to the point where it's like, do I even feel welcome here anymore? There's certain people that want. I've never been to shut anyone down. I'm like, you know what? It's a big tent. All are welcome. And I've been around the nerd space forever. I can't even recall a point where anyone was mean or cruel to someone that, was just whatever. We're all different and misfits. If you're in the nerd space, you're a misfit. Okay. So it's a collection of misfits. I've just never witnessed that. And it's weird because you've had this young generation come in and they've almost been taught to be racist in a way, which is really sad. They're just filled with bad ideas. And I've never, and look, there's a lot I could sit here and complain about my life and early struggles that I had, whatever. I'm not going to do it because there's a phrase, when you choose to be a victim, you become your own oppressor. Right. And so I choose, in spite of my circumstances, in spite of struggles, my family couldn't afford to send me to college. I dropped out of college. All I did was read a lot of books. I read a lot of books. And I started Film Threat as a small business when I was a kid. I'm still doing it. What am I doing? What could I say? Like, I just feel like I've never looked at myself, and it was maybe my family. It's like, no, you become accountable for your behavior and your decisions, and you learn to make better decisions. And then, you just persevere. So I don't know. Like, I feel like a lot of young people are getting very, very bad lessons taught to them. And that's translating to not necessarily the real world, but definitely on Twitter, because it's great. Like, I can just go walk in the world and talk to real people, and it's like what the kinds of things people talk about on Twitter, and the way people speak to each other, and they speak to each other in a very cruel way. I don't see that in the world. I think that's why it's like my whole thing is I would never say something to someone on social media that I wouldn't actually say to their face. Now, that doesn't mean I wouldn't go tell them to go F themselves, but I try to show restraint and just actually debate the idea. Let's talk about this concept. Star Wars. I mean, look, it's hard to argue. Hot Wheels is mostly a boy brand. And I feel like in the same breath, Star Wars is a boy brand and I will say this, there are little things that George Lucas, this is why when people were criticizing like Jar Jar, it's like, wait a sec. Every Star Wars movie ever made has always had something cute. Always had something cute. Or R2-D2, if you know something about how they created the sounds for R2-D2, it's based on a baby. The cooing sounds that R2-D2, they just said, oh, R2-D2 sounds like a baby trying to communicate. So you get an understanding of what R2-D2 is trying to say. It's a weird digital language, but it's like baby talk. That's R2-D2. You've got the Ugnaughts, which were weird. George Lucas is obsessed with little people, right? The Ewoks. Yeah, the Jawas.
They're
are
my
cute.
favorite.
Yeah, I mean, like there's always been cute things in Star Wars. George Lucas is very aware, while it's primarily a boys brand, there are little nuggets in there for like, and really I would say that the cute things that are in there, that's for kids. That's for kids. Right. I mean, I'm sure, I mean, you're a huge Disney, way more about Disney than I do. I mean, watching your channel, you're a Disney scholar, you and Alan Ng,
Oh.
very much Disney scholars. You know, uh, Disney famously, you probably already know this, stop me if you've heard this before, but Disney always put butts in his movies, his cartoons. If you look at the early cartoons, Bambi, Snow White, all these movies, they always have these little cartoon butts. Now it's cute, like Thumper, right? Thumper, you
Mhm.
see Thumper's
Yeah.
butt, and just look up Walt Disney cartoon butts. He and all animators know this, that Disney would leak in a little scene of a character with a cute butt. Why did he do it? Because he noticed in the films, in his short films and whatnot, whenever he did this, it would make all the little children, we're talking about single digit age, young kids, would giggle when they would see a cartoon butt. It had the effect of making the entire audience laugh. Sometimes they didn't know what they were laughing at, but everybody's laughing. We're all having a good time at the movies. Let's
Mhm.
laugh. And so that's in a lot of Disney movies. A lot of the Disney early animation included cute butts. Just look it up, but it's widely known among animators that that was, and it's not done in a sexual way. It's not done in a weird thing. It's Thumper's butt and Thumper being cute, little cute rabbit, you know. Um,
It's potty humor.
it's
Little
potty
kids
humor.
like stuff like that, and if you think it's
Yes,
like, "Oh, it's just Disney," I got, 2 words for you, Despicable Me, 1 word, Minions, okay?
right. You always see
You
the
s
little butt crack in the Minions, but it's
and they
cute.
laugh about
They
it,
laugh.
when the kids
Yeah.
are the kids are laughing about it, but to kinda get back to, what you were saying about, we'll say, this particular younger generation, it's what I call the participation trophy generation. You
Mhm.
know, you just get something just because you happen to breathe. And this breeds young adults who think that they should get anything because they show up. And I've seen this in corporate America. Well, I will have some younger developers who they'll put out some code that isn't exactly all that great. And they go to a
Mhm.
code review and older developers are like, "No, that doesn't work, that doesn't work, that doesn't work. You need to fix that, you need to fix that." And you would have thought that the world was falling apart with the way that they would react. There's other, older developers who are like, "Okay, yeah, it sucks. I gotta fix that. Yeah, yeah, okay, well, tell me why that sucks." And you have to fight on the whiteboard, so to
Yeah.
speak. But you
Yeah.
have people or a generation of people who think that they shouldn't have to struggle,
Yeah.
that there is no value in the struggle. And then you have the people who think that based on what you look like, that all you do is struggle and that's all you've ever done. To go back to Jar Jar,
Mhm.
where people were like, "Oh, he's a caricature. I'm like, where the heck are you getting this?" I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't see
Yeah.
that. You have a group of people who feel that they should be offended on the behalf of people who never asked them to be in
Right.
in the first place. And this is what gets me to the comment with you being called sexist, with the
Mhm.
Star Wars fans being tarred racist. They say
Mm.
those things to get you to shut up from telling the truth. And here's why. You ever notice there's like crickets when
Yeah.
there's a minority Star Wars fan who basically says, "You all are full of crap."
Yeah. Well, I
You
mean, it's
hear
funny. George
it.
Lucas came out. I think the problem with Jar Jar, honestly, I didn't hate Jar Jar. The problem with
I
Jar
didn't
Jar
hate
is
him either.
the problem with Jar Jar was screen time. He had way too much. He is a side character, comic relief. He had
Yeah.
way too much screen time, and that's it. You cut down his screen time. He's. I thought his intro scene was really funny, and he's based on Goofy. If you look at the ears, he's based on Goofy. It's so funny, but yeah, it's just bizarre. I feel like we're going through something, but there is a bizarre resistance. Have you heard this term of reverse mentoring? It's where young people want to mentor older people to tell them that this is good or this is bad or whatever. And I cringe. I cringe when I see this happening, because normally, in order to become a writer in the writers room, whatever, takes about a decade. they've elevated a lot of people into writer's room. They're not prepared for it. They're not prepared to be able to have the conversations or just throw out ideas that are good to the room to see if they're good, they're bad, they work, do they make everybody laugh, etc. And so I'm concerned. I'm really concerned that some terrible ideas. One of the worst is, and I've said this, I'm sure I've told you this, is I don't like this concept that I can only relate to someone who looks like me. I can only, this person needs to look like me in order for me to relate. You're missing a huge opportunity, because the whole point of fiction, whether it's a novel, a comic book, a video game, or a movie, is you identify with the protagonist. And the protagonist could be, the opposite sex of you. It could be a bear, not even a human, right? It could be something, it could be like in Charlotte's Web, it could be a pig or a spider. It could, like, the point of fiction is to learn empathy. Empathy for someone who does not look like you. We're losing the lesson. There's a weird, I think it's very authoritarian from an art standpoint, that you have to have someone who looks like you. I don't just tell an authentic story where I'm engaged in the journey of that character, but to always make it about what someone looks like, or that's why I think diversity is overrated. I think you can have non-diverse stories that are, look, Godzilla, nobody looked like me in that movie. I didn't care, but I grew up watching a lot of foreign cinema and whatnot, and so I never thought about that. This is a new bad idea, and it needs to be dispensed with, because it is corrupting a generation of kids when you're missing an opportunity to identify with someone who does not look like you and learn empathy, which is what it means to be a human being.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And with that loss of lesson, you have insulting generations of people who have watched this craft and were watching it fall apart with respect to American cinema. As a matter of fact, I had a watch party with and Retro Nerd Girl. We watched a movie that changed our lives. Want to know what that movie was?
What was it?
Enter the Dragon.
Oh, I love that movie. It has, I watched it recently. It has way more nudity than I remember. I don't remember the nudity. I just remember the, and by the way, that movie was very diverse. To be clear.
That's the other reason it was diverse, but it wasn't forced. I mean,
it wasn't
told
forced.
the story of what was going on in that particular period of time, but it's so universally loved because daggone it, story was good.
I've always been a Bruce Lee fan. I read his biography, which I believe is it Be Like Water? I always forget the name of his.
I think that's it. Yeah.
Yeah. And there's a documentary about him as well. He's my hero. I saw Enter the Dragon in the movie theaters when I was a kid in the 70s. I should not have seen it, but I did see it and blown away. I remember Bruce Lee in Green Hornet. I mean, all my friends, we thought Bruce Lee was we tried to watch, I remember watching on TV and being really disappointed, the movie Game of Death, which is the movie that was made, he passed away during the making of the movie, and then they still finished the movie, and it's terrible because they put like Bruce Lee's face on like someone who had like and they had a body double. It was bad, but I watched it on TV as a kid. We were all excited for it, and then we're disappointed. But Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is in that film, and that fight with Bruce Lee and him is just so incredible because the height differential is so crazy. But Bruce Lee was a hero. There's a reason Robert Downey Jr. wore a Bruce Lee T-shirt. I think it was in Age of Ultron, Avengers: Age of Ultron. He's wearing a T-shirt because the philosophy of him, and also, by the way, what he experienced when he came to America. He did experience real racism at the time, and he had an attitude to deal with it. And he became, he was respected and loved. And I don't know, he was a hero from growing. I just thought everybody loves Bruce Lee and everybody knew about Bruce Lee. And it's like, we've forgotten pop culture history. We've forgotten there's this narcissistic generation that thinks that only movies from 5 years ago. This is the first I don't know that there's a first anything. There's been like a whole lost cinema, mainly of the 70s. Because growing up, like outside of Detroit, look, I saw blaxploitation movies. I remember Pam Grier. I remember just like, how can I go see, like, I remember like a lot of just cool, badass movies and badass characters. I just like the character. You know what I mean? So, I don't know. I was a weird kid. I saw a lot of movies as a kid. I was an indoor kid that read books, read books, comic books, and went to the movies and had a newspaper route so I could afford to do all those things. And so I could buy comic books and model kits and nerd stuff and whatever. So I've seen like the nerd community kind of evolve, but I have never seen more division in the nerd community than now. It didn't exist before. It
No,
didn't
it
exist.
didn't.
Nobody
It was like
cared.
you had your argument about who's the best. Somebody would start it. Who's the best Star Trek captain? Oh, shoot, here we go. And you would have these
Right.
passionate arguments, but at the end, it's like, okay, let's go down to the bar and let's, do karaoke. Okay, cool.
Right.
We, we all go.
Exactly. When I was a kid, I went to the local comic shop, not necessarily to buy comics because I could buy them at the drugstore. I went there to have conversations, and you'd sit. It was like, this is way before a podcast was even a concept. We just sit there and have these like nerd conversations. And it was interesting to hear the debate of like, well, here's I'm going to present my side. And a lot of it is just a reflection of your personality, like the things that you like. And that's whatever. That's like arguing over flavors of ice cream. We can argue till we're blue in the face. You like what you like. I'm not going to criticize someone for that, but I am interested, and I do like the potential of having my mind changed or my mind open to hearing why someone has this opinion about a nerd topic. And so I think when you see what people label as toxicity, that's just how nerds have talked forever. It's how nerds have talked forever. In my recollection, that's all. You sit there, you debate, and then you're friends.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I just, whatever. And it's just this is weird. Relax.
Yeah, relax. It's okay. Just because someone has a differing opinion from you, the world will not end, tomorrow. They're not making a judgment, about you. It's just get back into what was the fun of what's going on with nerd discussions, and don't get your panties in a twist because someone said something that's factually true, which is Star Wars is a predominantly male brand, just like John Wick is a predominantly male brand. It is what it is. It's not sexist to say that. If you want to call somebody sexist for saying that, you can call me sexist for saying that because I will. It's 100%, 100% true. And maybe, just maybe, folks will learn that lesson at Lucasfilm and Marvel. But we'll know when I see Madam Web next week. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much, Chris, for appearing on my channel. I love having these conversations with you and look forward to having many, many more. Let people know where they can find you.
Well, Film Threat is my channel. So look up Film Threat. We're Film Threat on all social media. And my personal social media, if you want to see me tweet out that thing again, is that Chris Gore. You can battle in the comments because I'm going to tweet that every couple months just for Lorena. That's what I'm going to do.
You'll see me in there with a jiff of popcorn or me or New York laughing with the.
I can't wait. I've already got my draft of the Madam Web. I've already written it. It's just a reword of that for Madam Web, but we'll see, look, what if it's a huge hit? I don't think it will be, but we'll see.
No, considering I bought my ticket and there was only one more person who bought their ticket in advance.
You're in a theater, you'll make friends. In a theater,
as compared to with Five Nights at Freddy's, I barely got a ticket a week before the movie came out.
God.
Big freaking difference. But anyway, folks, thank you so much for joining me. Please subscribe to Film Threat, because if you are not, you are missing out on so much great stuff. Make sure you're subscribed to me, and we will see you next time. Bye.
Later.